We've got a series of stories. This is from WHYY.org. Delaware County Fire Chief resigns over controversial Facebook post on Trump assassination attempt. This one's from Whiskey Riff. Home Depot employee fired for nasty Donald Trump comments saying too bad they weren't better.
Wait, come on.
Hold on. We got more.
Home Depot.
The Kansas City Star says we got more. School worker fired over Facebook post about Trump assassination attempt, officials say. We've got this one. Bell Marine instructor no longer an employee after remarks about attempted Trump assassination. Over and over and over again, we're getting these stories. And Libs of TikTok has been posting comments from nurses, from teachers, from employees. And then I don't know. One of you guys can clarify this for me. Is Libs the person who's actually sending the messages or just posting them? Like, are they sending? Is Haya sending the messages that the posts to the employers?
I don't think so. I think just people on the internet probably are.
They're emailing
Yeah.
So they're seeing what Libs is highlighting. Like, look what this person's saying, and then people are reaching out to the schools, to the fire department, to the businesses, and getting these people fired. In Home Depot, this image that you're seeing right here, this was a guy who saw her post and then went there and said, "Are you so-and-so?" And she's like, "Yes." And he's like, "You said this thing." And she's like, "Excuse me, I'm at work." She got fired from this. Now, Alex, you asked...
Give that lesbian her job back, Tim. I mean, what do you mean? Look at her. You really think that she cares if the president is going to die? Like, whatever. I mean, somebody wants to think that. I went and I asked people on the street, what do you think about what happened to Donald Trump? They said, a BB gun hit him. Some people don't give a damn. Why?
Right.
I mean, so she has that opinion.
Yeah.
She can have that opinion.
And I think Home Depot should fire her. Now,
have you ever tried getting help at Home Depot? It's impossible.
Okay. But let's be for real. Let's be serious.
Depot,
Everybody wants to argue cancel culture is wrong, cancel culture is bad. We talked about it a little bit last night, but I'll explain why Home Depot should fire her. Home Depot is trying to sell goods and services, and she's going into public forums and calling for the death for criminal activities that would destroy this country, rip apart the fabric of society. Now, I don't like that there's the threat to free speech in this regard, but I respect a private business saying, hey, you're engaging in what is borderline criminal behavior, calling for the assassination of a president. Like, that gets you a knock on the door by the feds and the Secret Service. If you want to do that, you can, but not if you're working here, because we're just trying to sell lumber and gardening tools. Now, should people be reaching out and hunting these people down, doing all this stuff? I'm not a fan of that. But I'm also not going to defend people who are calling for the death of the front runner, because it's a danger to our democracy.
It sounds like MSNBC. There's a lot of crazy people out there who believe crazy things. Some people don't believe Trump really got shot. Some people believe 9/11 was an inside job. Some people think vaccines don't do anything and aren't effective and safe.
What are you trying to say here?
Hold on a minute. Wait, hold on.
So, a lot of people, people believe crazy things, and,
you're missing like the shooter did Saturday.
We're not talking about believing something. We're talking about people advocating for and calling for the death of an individual, and worse still, the front runner for our presidential elections. Now, I'm not saying anyone should go out and contact businesses. I'd probably just be like, I'm going to write that person off. Two things. If a business thinks that you're causing harm to them in a reasonable manner, right? It is not reasonable for Twitter to ban someone for a political opinion. It is not reasonable for someone to fire a person from the company over something they said years and years ago. But if you are actually working for a company and espousing things in public that reflect on that company, I'm not surprised. And private businesses have the right to say, look, we don't want to work with you on this regard, just as long as they're being reasonable. But more importantly, this is bordering on criminal activity. That's a problem.
The only thing I can contrast it with quickly is, like, if this Home Depot cashier was posting on Facebook, someone in my local community should unalive themselves or should get beat up or something like that. Like, if they were calling for something like that to happen with, like, I don't know, someone who lives in this town or this area, is that, like, and I don't know off the top of my head, like, how would police respond to that? How would Home Depot respond to that? Because there is, obviously there are consequences for posting threatening things online. Yeah, but, it's not exactly a parallel to this, but, like, again, we don't treat all speech equally as much as we believe in free speech.
I don't blame this woman. I blame the intel agencies that have promoted Trump derangement syndrome through social media, through the corporate media. They're the ones that have gaslit and manipulated the American people to be so polarized here. And if we look at all of this, I blame the intel agencies. Now, you could say inside job, you could say it's not an inside job. They had a hand when it came to radicalizing Americans to hate Donald Trump, to think that he's Hitler, to think that he's going to be attacking democracy. So at the end of the day, this woman is a byproduct of what a lot of Americans are thinking, but they aren't saying. So I understand whether we're going to cancel her or not, but the bigger conversation needs to be the gaslighting of the American people.
I agree, and I want to stress a point. I had a great discussion the other day on principles and morals. We've talked about it on this show. And one example I like to give on the sort of the meaninglessness of this principle statement people give, I think morals matter more. There are people on the right who say, people on the left say the government shouldn't tell people what to do with their bodies. And then they call for vaccine mandates. Mm-hmm. Then people on the right will say the government shouldn't, also, I disagree, they shouldn't be allowed to tell us what to do. The vaccine mandates are wrong. These people are hypocrites, but would absolutely intervene with the state if a doctor prescribed a child sex change to a kid, intervening with the choices a parent would make on their own healthcare. Because it's not about the principle of state should not intervene. That's meaningless to both factions. It's about the moral lines that we're willing to draw. And now I will stress this point. If a person goes on Twitter and says, I'm not a fan of gay marriage, and you say, we're going to take your job from you, that's unreasonable. That statement in no way negatively impacts a business in a reasonable manner. Now, people may get upset with your business, say your person's got bad opinions, but everybody has bad opinions. Someone advocating for and lamenting the fact that an assassination of a political leader did not happen. In this instance, she said, too bad they weren't a better shooter. She said, he's the definition of corrupt and evil. That's the line. The reason why my moral line says I won't tolerate this, the end result of this avalanche that they're causing with advocating for assassinations resulted in a dead man who was shot and killed protecting his family. And I got to be completely honest, like if Donald Trump took that hit, we're talking like Viva Frei said, Franz Ferdinand level, World War III, international collapse.
Yes.
Yo, these people aren't just going on and saying, I have a bad political opinion. They're saying rip the world should be ripped asunder. And we have to at some point say, okay, guys, at the very least, chill out on this. Now, that being said, Raymond G. Maga Stanley Jr. asked if she apologized, get your job back. 100%. I 100% think so. And I actually do have a weariness about me that people are messaging their businesses and saying, hey, look what they're posting and all that stuff. But the one thing I'll add lastly before I shut up and stop ranting, this never would have happened that the average person would be going out to public square, like the town center, yelling they want this to happen. Nobody would do that. They think they can go online and say whatever they want. But I will stress again, 10 years ago, when someone went on Twitter and said learn to code and got banned is not the same thing as going into the public square and calling for, advocating for, or wishing that an assassination would take place. That's way outside the social contract.
I think I would say these are the same people who would have laughed about people being banned and said, oh, freedom of speech, but not freedom from consequences. What I'll say about people, several of these people, I would say it's a stretch to say they're calling for it. Some people did. Some people more like, oh, I wish she didn't miss. I think I don't feel great about kind of witch hunting these people down and getting them fired. I wouldn't advocate for them to be fired because just because they have a vile opinion, I don't really care one way or the other. They're allowed to have it. But I don't care that they got fired.
In my opinion, you don't want to become what you're fighting. And if we're going to cast blame, it should be on the intel agencies that are the ones that are calling for a lot of this radicalism.
There has to be social order. I do hear what you're saying, but there has to be social order. This guy, I'm not going to show his name, said a little to the right next time, please. Saying next time, please is a call for action. He is saying he wants it to happen again, and he wants him to get it right. We have to have moral standards. We can't have people running around society going to each other and saying someone should do it right next time, because this is the left calls it stochastic terrorism when the right says things like illegal aliens that aren't in the country, many of them are criminals. That's not. What is stochastic terrorism is when the media comes out, and I agree with Luke on this one, and says Trump is an existential threat to us and our democracy and must be stopped by any means necessary. And then they pause and go, at the ballot box is where we'll do it. Yeah. But it's like, okay, dude, we know what you're doing. It is the, oh, won't someone rid me of this meddlesome priest? Now, that being said, I think it's fair to say we do believe in free speech. And I don't like the idea that people will say what they truly believe and then have their lives ruined over it. My only stance is this. Like I said, I will not engage in hunting people's jobs down and getting them fired. I don't think anyone should be doing that, but I will never defend people who are on the side of the destruction of our morals, our lives. There's a reason why one of the 10 commandments, honor thy father and thy mother. And it doesn't matter if you're religious or not. It's that we want to maintain the roots to our moral ancestry to maintain a cohesive and functioning system. And like Dennis Prager points out, if you cut the flower from its roots, it'll look beautiful for a little while before it dies. So we want to maintain a basic moral standard and say, guys, let's not cross that line lest the whole thing fall apart.
It would be nice to see if you had, I don't think firing some Home Depot cashier changes things much other than, for them personally. But I do agree that also the media companies that have been using inflammatory rhetoric, it's real a tight line for me because I feel extremely uncomfortable when we're talking about policing speech, especially in America. But when you look at you can only turn up the temperature in the pot for so long before it boils. And I think the media does probably bear some level. I mean, if Alex Jones can lose everything he has for asking, for reporting what he thought was true, certainly some of these media agencies that have spent years whipping people up into a fervor and living in fear and telling them that this will be the last time they ever vote. I think there should be some responsibility, maybe from Donald Trump directly. I don't know.
I think there's something challenging too that we have to confront, and it's that we want to live in this world of hard principle. We believe in free speech. That means people are allowed to express their ideas so long as they don't engage in violence. The problem is that can only go so far until your system collapses, and then you are surrounded by psychopathic communists who want to throw you in a gulag and take your rights from you. The left made this argument with the Karl Popper meme that if you tolerate intolerance, eventually intolerance wins because you are letting them do it. They're not wrong. If we sit back, and we did this 10 years ago, and I reject this ideology that I held 10 years ago, somebody on the left would advocate for all of us to be banned. Someone would say hashtag learn to code, people like Destiny, for instance, and he'd say it's a private company, they can do what they want. And we'd say that's completely unreasonable because we're not acting outside of social contract. We're not calling for violence, breaking any laws. We're expressing an opinion, which isn't even that bad. Then, when they would get censored, all of us would run full speed to say, we believe in free speech. Unban them. And the first thing they do when they get unbanned is do everything in their power to get us banned. And I'm like, okay, guys, at a certain point, stop handing rocks to people throwing rocks at you. So while I believe in free speech, I said this about a year ago, I am now of the mind that I will defend the rights of those who believe rights should be defended. I will not advocate for the taking of anyone's rights, but I will never defend someone who's on the side of the destruction of our system and our way of life. They've reaped what they have sown. I will phrase it very simply. If an individual advocates for censorship, if they support the regime which has censored us and colluded with the federal, with the central intelligence agencies, the national intelligence agencies, which we know Facebook and X were doing, Twitter at the time, not X, sorry, were doing, then I will never come to the defense. I will put it simply, congratulations, you've won. This is what you wanted. You lost your job for saying naughty words. That was the world you fought for, and you have received. Congratulations on all your efforts. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.